Alright, I played it, got nearly all the endings, watched the lore findings that have come up so far, trolled the Reddit and the wiki, and let it all stew for a week or two. Let's talk about what's actually going on in Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. First, let's go over our key players and spoilers ahead. Before we get into it, let me introduce myself. I'm Rytoast, and I recently started making content like this. I've been streaming on Twitch for a while though. If you like the video, let me know with an actual like, and if you would be so kind, subscribing because it means a lot. I'm still really small channel, so it's super impactful. We're gonna break down this game and all that we know about it in a few videos, and today is all about the characters. The first person we should probably cover is our player's character, Gregory. Who is this random kid? This is the first FNAF game besides FNAF World in which we're not playing as Michael, so he has to be important, right? Well, not that important, Matthew. Well, from looking at all the lore and evidence in front of us, it seems incredibly likely that he's just a homeless orphan who was looking for some fun and snuck into the Pizzaplex. Again, I don't think he's Evan or even a robot made to look like Evan. Evan died at this point nearly 50 years ago. It's not logical. However, he does look like Evan, which will be important when discussing someone else in a little bit. All of the animatronics at one point or another try to hunt Gregory down, but Freddy doesn't. Why? Well, there's a few reasons. Firstly, I want to come out and say I don't think any of the aggressive animatronics are haunted. I know there are missing children, but I frankly don't know what for, and I don't think it's to experiment on the Glamrocks. Looking at each animatronic, it seems as though they've been hacked or rewired into hunting down Gregory. Freddy mentions it's against their normal programming, and two of the animatronics, Sun and Moon and DJ Music Man, are completely harmless in certain activation modes. If the animatronics have been reprogrammed to attack, I think the safe mode boot at the beginning of the game most likely wiped out that reprogramming from Freddy. Side note, I think he glitched out because Gregory climbed inside before the performance. Mainly because I can't think of a good time for Gregory to have climbed inside after the performance because it was on a stage and then next to Vanessa, and the glitch mentions a child detective. So I'm pretty sure he climbed in before and then Freddy realizes that mid-performance. There's one other reason I think Freddy is so protective of Gregory, uncharacteristically so for a robot. Freddy, I think, is the only actually possessed animatronic of the new ones. We learn in the basement ending, and we'll go over the endings next week, that the FNAF 6 plot to burn everyone down nearly entirely failed, leaving all the animatronics to survive in this hulking mess, and William to kind of survive. So if that's the case, Michael surely survived as well. His body being entirely organic definitely burned to ash, but his soul stayed, and it must have waited dormant until a familiar vessel arrived, Freddy Fazbear, well, Glamrock Freddy now. This is evident further by his lines near that ending.
I know what this is. I have been here before. She brought me here. I found myself for the first time when I cleared the path. I did not want to. But I had no choice. Now I have a choice. I have changed. My friends are here. They are so angry, confused. But I can protect you. I am not me.
And how protective he is of a child who looks just like the kid brother he accidentally helped to kill. This is his way of atonement. Finally, he can protect someone. So those are our protagonists squared away. Now what of our villains? What about Vanny and Vanessa? Well, if you watched my timeline video, which you totally should, it's my first well-made YouTube video and a lot of people liked it. Vanessa is the name of the video game tester whose mind was taken over by the digitized version of William's soul, Glitchtrap. When she puts on the mask, we originally believed that she became this new, obedient follower by the moniker Vanny. However, with the evidence given from this new game, it's my belief that Vanessa and Vanny are two distinct personalities sharing the same body and mind. Throughout the game, there are CDs hidden that, if played in an even more hidden location, play audio tapes of the therapy sessions of nearly certainly Vanessa and what appears to be a more confident, rude, and nearly opposite silent patient. However, in both cases, they're referred to in the same way, talked to about the same goings-ons, and worked with the same therapists. What's more, when talking about her trauma, Vanessa finally breaks and says,
I can't talk about this. He said he would always be watching. He could be here, or there, or anywhere in between.
The therapist assumes Vanessa's talking about her horrible past with her father, who controlled her to lie about testimony against her mother. To which she responds,
I have. I compartmentalized him. He's locked away.
All this leads me to believe that not only is she particularly susceptible to being manipulated, the overwhelming trauma given to her by GLitchTrap has been compartmentalized into a separate, fractured persona, VANNY, one who loves the dark, hates flowers, and is overly confident, the foil to Vanessa. Vanessa is still aware of what VANNY does and her conversations with William, and VANNY is aware of what Vanessa does as well. This is why we get lines of her being afraid of William hearing. This is also why, when you're locked in the Lost and Found, Vanessa mentions that
I'll bet you think you're real clever, Gregory. Yeah, I know your name. You're in big trouble. This is not the night to be wasting my time.
knowing that William is close to being resurrected. We get more evidence of this with the Princess Quest arcade cabinets that you're required to play to have access to the VANNY endings. The cabinets themselves being what I believe are manifestations of William's hold on Vanessa's mind, with the purple glitches representing William, the white rabbit enemies representing VANNY, and the princess being Vanessa. Being taught and controlled by AFTON, she gains the know-how on hacking robots and animatronics, and this is how she is responsible for their aggressive behavior. Speaking of our behind-the-scenes villain, William, or could be called now BURNTRAP, could use a brief explanation as well. We all know that a part of William's soul was digitized into the Help Wanted game from an old motherboard, and because the basement ending, we know that an actually decent chunk of him remained after the fire. So VANNY, under his tutelage, has been slowly rebuilding him using a recharge station and a massive amount of power. He's got a few new parts, including a new arm, which we can assume are most likely from the new Bonnie of the Pizzaplex, seeing as Bonnie recently was decommissioned. There's a few questions around Bonnie, but since it happened recently and he was last seen entering Monty Golf, I think that VANNY hacked into Monty to destroy Bonnie so she could then salvage parts for BURNTRAP's rebuild. I mean, look at this new arm. Finally, there's one more creature to cover. On the way to the basement, we encounter this hulking, breathing mess. It's called the BLOB on the wiki, but I prefer the FAZBEAR amalgam. Not to be confused with the amalgamation from the novels. Because when I think of the BLOB, I think of this guy. This is what appears to be every haunted animatronic, minus the toys of the second game since they've moved on, melted into one confused and angry mass. The original 5, the Fun Times, which are just the original 5 again but mixed up, Charlotte, and Elizabeth. This mass of remnant and wires pretty much just attacks anything that moves, including Gregory and William. Side note, this amalgam could possibly include Henry if he didn't pass on. I believe he did, as he thought he brought an end to everything, but he was present and died during the creation of this thing, so he could be in it too. Now that just about covers everyone uncovered so far. Next week we'll go over the endings, and if we learn anything new about the characters, I'll include it in the last video saved for unanswered questions and bonus lore. Remember to dig into the lore of the like button if you enjoyed the video, and study that subscribe button too. And as always, stay toasty.